Can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes.
Now we can. Hi,
Okay.
Parth.
Okay. I'm good. How are you guys doing? How's your you guys had a baby recently? Congratulations.
Thank
So
you.
you did your research.
How
That's,
how are you guys even like doing this with
well,
a kid
Parth,
in the house?
you know how it is, right? When you want to do something, you'll do anything in the world to make it happen, right? I'm sure you relate to that. You don't have a baby yet,
Yeah.
but you know how life is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that, but still amazing.
He's our third host.
Yeah.
Third co-host of.
At least until he'll know, once he knows, he's probably gonna quit it.
But thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
Are we good to go?
Yeah.
Formal introductions. Welcome to our podcast show. This is Monica here, my lovely wife, and I'm Sankalp. And it's a pleasure to have you. I know you personally because I've been following your journey, and more because I come with a degree in United States. That's why a lot of people know you, right? Yeah, he's one of the biggest,
Influencers?
in the study abroad
Yeah.
world.
In the study abroad space, yeah.
Yeah, because he's the famous celebrity, if I may call, who's
You
the
know, where I'm famous. Like I am, if I go to a city and I go to a university, then I'm a little bit famous. That's
Oh,
my limit to the fame. But it's always nice to come across some people, meet them randomly. We were in Miami a couple of weeks ago, me and the wife and my sister, and we were just eating at an Indian restaurant, and we met somebody who watched my videos. That's the fun part of it, of meeting
Right.
somebody randomly like that.
Well, let's start off with where you are. If you can quickly tell us in which part of the world you are currently.
I live in Tucson, Arizona right now. Tucson's the second big city in Arizona, right 2 hours south from Phoenix, and we're only hour and a half from Mexico. I moved here 2021. I was in Phoenix for a while working. My wife is a PhD scholar here, so she's doing her optical sciences degree, and I moved here to work, like to be with her and be in one of my construction dream companies.
You started your journey in the United States from Arizona.
No, I started my journey from West Lafayette. That's in Indiana. It's
Okay.
another small, like not even a town I would call it. Just like it can go for a village if there was no Purdue there. So I went to Purdue University for my graduate studies, finished that in 2019 and moved to Arizona then.
So just for the listeners to help them better understand who you are and what you do on the social media world, at least, you gave us a little introduction of your career, which is in construction. But whenever you have questions about student loan, accommodations and how to get a part-time job or full-time job, visa, regulations, and your life before, during, and after, you can go to Parth and his profile to understand every single detail. Am I right?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. The whole reason of me starting that channel was like I was too bored. I was taking a gap year, and I realized like I have something here. So just rather than writing blogs and having no face for it, I started shooting videos. During that time, after I got my admit, I really did not have anything to do. This was the best use of my time, and I just started like publishing videos, doing live webinars, and created this audience over, I don't know, 6 years now. Over 6 years, just chipping away. And it's not a full-time job. It's something I do to like just keep in touch with the student population and like, keep something handy. But the best part of what I do, or like the work I put in, is when I get to meet all of the students. For example, if I go to ASU right now, when the students are coming in August, I'll meet so many of them, and it's always like I get so happy and excited to see them and meet them. And then when I go to India, I host these big events helping out students as well. Just meeting them and trying to resolve their problems, and seeing like one video which I made 5 years ago is still helping students. That's like that makes it all worthwhile.
So one question I wanted to ask you, we all know, traveling outside of your comfort zone, outside of your home country to a new place comes with its own set of challenges, right? And I want to ask if you could please share a personal experience of yours with one such adversity that you faced. And what did you take from it? If there's any tips that you could share, maybe just the first thing that comes to your mind, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I did not do my undergrad in India. I actually went to Thailand for my undergrad. That's a whole story in itself. But my adversity, like I think I did all my quota of, going through struggles when I was in Thailand rather than coming to the US and going through that. Because when I came to the US, I already knew what it was like living away from home, what it is like to,
Right.
survive on a certain budget. When I was in Thailand, this like undergrad students, 18, 19-year-olds, you get freedom for the first time. And of course, you go crazy a little bit. And it's like a new format altogether. The university I went there had an American curriculum, American professors, and everything. So it was completely different on how we have done our studies in India. Very
Right.
academic space, very academic focused. So it was it was just apples and oranges at that time. The biggest thing which I faced there was first of all like not being able to focus on the studies part of things and just like being focused on partying or hanging out with friends and just like watching a lot of TV, watching a lot of content online.
Right.
When it comes to adversity, I think the bigger part of my life, like years and years, was when I started dating my wife. When I started dating her, we had to spend a lot of time long distance. It was always like Tom and Jerry, very chasing each other, because she's not in my field and she has her own like thing which she does. And um, we were just 1 year, I was in Sweden, she was in Thailand. Then we were for 6 months, we were in the same place. Then she was back in Thailand and I was in India. And then I came to the US. She was in Thailand for a while. Then she was in India. And then when she came to the US, I was in Phoenix and Tucson. So it was just like we were getting close. We were still like living
Right.
apart. And then once I moved to Tucson, that's when we started living together. But funnily enough, she's gone to Michigan for 3 months for an internship right now. So we're almost back to like the long distance we have had. But adversity wise, I think the fear of like not getting a job or the fear of not being able to perform and like freaking out
Right.
is the biggest challenge I always face. Like, trying to prove yourself that you need to do this, you need to do that, which nobody's asking you really to do it, but it's just like something which is going on in your mind all the time.
That's what I wanted to ask. Like, was this pressure just internalized pressure? Because I relate to that a lot. No one's really, especially, I think a lot of students, when you're outside, your parents aren't really bothered about how you're performing. They're more concerned about your health, whether you're eating on time, things like that. And
Yeah.
sort of build this pressure on ourselves to perform. And we constantly think, oh, we have to make our parents proud. Like, all of this struggle has to be worth something. Like, we have to show
Right.
up, we have to show something at the end of it.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, of all the things he could have talked about, he mentioned about relationships.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's something people actually don't really consider, right? When you're moving to another country, the first thing on your mind is the college, the jobs, the part-time, full-time, and all of those experiences. But it takes a toll on your relationships that are in your home country, and also it's not easy to maintain them once you come out, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's a good takeaway for people who are listening.
Yeah, I strongly feel that the like every 4 or 5 years goes by in my life, like the friends I made from like 8th class to 12th class, they're still like standing strong. We talk every week. Whenever we go to, like, I go to India, we're always hanging out no matter what. Then the friends I made in college in my undergrad, those friends are very strong as well. But as I am aging, I'm 29 now. As I'm aging, I feel like becoming very strong friends with somebody is very difficult. So people who were like my friends in my masters, I don't talk to them that much as compared to my school friends, just because it's like a time capsule. You can just go back in time and you're not really worried about jobs or how much you're making or any kind of struggle. You're just like having fun with them.
Right.
And when I was in undergrad, like I probably didn't cherish relationships that much, but now I do. And it's getting more and more difficult, especially when you come to the West and you're in the North America region. It's just getting impossible to travel or go back to home so much.
Yeah, absolutely. All these are like informal connections, right? Let's talk about the formal connections that are super important when you're trying to pursue a career outside of your hometown, right? the professional growth, we always talk about it's how important it is to connect with those alumni, getting on LinkedIn, making sure you have a really solid profile. Any experiences that you have that you'd like to share with the listeners that perhaps really helped you or clicked? Because my personal experience that helped me was I randomly literally reached out to an alumni from my university, and I have this little template of a message which I sent to every single one of my college, and asking them to connect with me and help me with opportunities that they might be aware of, and just sending out that message in a way which is what we stand for in this show as well, butterfly effect, into a full-time job that I have now, touchwood, for about how many years now? 2 years, 3 years. Yeah. So a little thing that I did on LinkedIn created an opportunity for me. Any experiences like that that catapulted you into a career that you were so thankful that you did that moment?
Yeah. And it's my father always says that no knowledge goes to waste. He has like double masters and he has an MBA and he's always studying. So that's one habit I picked up from him. What happened was, this is a very interesting story, and I told this literally yesterday on a webinar with some students. But what happened was, when there was every semester there's a career fair at Purdue, and there was a company, which the company I'm working at right now, they would come in every semester, and there's like, the company is great and their culture is great and they have like good values, but the projects are good. And they were in Arizona also, where I was trying to move. Initially, I did not know that I was going to move to Arizona, but like I was like, okay, this is a company which I would want to go for. So first semester, first career fair, I go talk to them. I build my connections. I send them connection request. Second career fair, I do the same. They recognize me, like, hey, yeah, I remember you. How are you? And all of that. Third career fair, which was like, I did a internship and a co-op. So that was after 8 months.
Right.
Third career fair, I go meet them again. But the guy who I connected with really well actually left the company. So this is like a new guy I've been meeting now. And I talked to them, I've talked to this person, that person, and I love DPR. I would love to work with you guys. And here's my CV. They did give me an interview. I went through the interview, but I did not get a call.
Okay.
Just nothing. I didn't hear back from anything. Like, they just basically reject. I was like, okay, I just, take my losses and move on. And I did get an offer from a company in Phoenix then. So it kind of worked out where I wanted to come to Arizona. So 3 times I kept in touch. I still posted on LinkedIn. I see like some people from DPR liking my post here and there. And then 2021 happens, and COVID's kind of subsiding a little bit. And I'm like, I need a switch now. I need to move to a new company, maybe better pay. And I start looking out for my connections. I send a message. Literally, as soon as I send a message, like, I think within 30 minutes, I get on a call with somebody from that company who agreed to refer to me. That was also a connection I built when I was in college, but I just like stayed in touch, and he's like, I'll push your CV. Um, they were actually looking for people, so it worked out well for me. And they were looking for people in Tucson. Tucson is a small city, so not a lot of people would want to come here. So it kind of worked out for me. So I get an interview call, I think within like a week, which is super fast. And I get a call, and I realize, like, I get an email. I receive an email, and I see a list of people, and I realize, like, hey, there's 2 people I already know from the career fair. And my current manager, is actually a Purdue grad, and he was the one who interviewed me when I was in my career fair, and he had notes from that time. And I think I talked to him afterwards. They already had an idea that they're going to hire me, but they just had to run it with like some other people as well. So just looking back, it all makes sense now. But just at that time, there was no way for me to know that, a connection like that will come in handy now.
Right.
And you just never know. Same thing. That's why I love my YouTube channel so much, and like, love the audience I've built, because if I need something, let's say in New York, like I have a few people I can reach out to really quickly. So those connections, always formal or informal, they are always helpful.
No, that's beautiful. Yeah, like you said, you're trying to, give back to the community, whatever help you received, during your initial struggles. Now you're coming back here trying to give as much as support as you can through your, videos and content. But it's so beautiful what you mentioned about career phase, particularly because usually there are like 3 to 4 career phase for an international student that he can attend, right, during his program.
Right.
The
Correct.
first one is I usually get so scared and I don't even want to attend it. But biggest takeaway is dress up, take a piece of paper and have as much as experience or curriculum or whatever activities and achievements you have, just put it on the paper and go show up and just interact, make friends. That's the first thing you can do, at least for the first career fair, which is in your first semester, right? The second one, like you said, people will start recognizing. Yeah, because it's usually the same people who are at the same booth in the the coming fairs as well, right? So maybe you're now prepared for an interview, right?
Yeah.
The first one you are not. The second one you'll be prepared for an interview, and by the time you're coming for the third and the fourth one, you might already have a job waiting for you, and you don't even know, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know how to put it correctly, but we don't really know that thing. It just messes me up, right? Like you don't know what you're doing today.
In that moment, you don't recognize how important it can be.
Yeah, talking to that person at a random, like a restaurant or in your classroom, your professor, a colleague.
And then years later, like Parth experienced, and you you cannot possibly imagine the outcome of that interaction.
Human interactions are very valuable. The stories that you exchange, the words that you exchange are, they'll take you a long way. So I think connections online and offline are super important when you're away, right, when you're away from your bubble.
That's what I tell everyone. Like just keep doing you. Keep putting effort, even if you don't see the results right now. You'll learn something from it, no matter what.
True. Parth, you shared earlier about how your relationship struggles were like a huge adversity for you, and I wanted to ask you. I know that students, especially international students, we don't really focus on our mental health, right? We're just there are times when I know that students don't have their meals on time, they don't sleep on time, and as a result their mental health will suffer, also being away from your support system, from your family so far away. I want to ask, how did you deal with your mental health struggles? Or now do you share any do you have any discussions now with the student community to highlight the importance of taking care of yourself?
Yeah, simple
100%.
as going out, doing something outside of your part-time job. Though the initial thing people usually mention about is the imposter syndrome, right? But nothing after that, right? So anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think everybody faces that. The problem is like we just don't talk about it. We don't talk about it enough, especially in the Indian communities. Like, oh, I'm feeling low or I'm feeling depressed, and your parents will like, just knock it off or go out and like play. First of all, Indians are not really good at confrontational behavior, where they would not like to confront if there's a problem existing. Second, that mental health is always considered a taboo, right? Like it's considered that they need to see a psychiatrist, and as soon as a psychiatrist comes in, it's like, oh, you're probably going mad. But that's not the reality of it.
Sweeping issues under the rug until it sort of builds into something.
So of course I faced that way. So what helped me cope up, the biggest thing which helped me cope up during my masters, and because of which I never felt that I'm outside my home or outside my comfort zone, was because I was making videos. So every time, like, if I was not studying, I was putting my time in like social media and content. And at that time I was growing. So all those like likes and views was giving me a lot of endorphins and like adrenaline rush. So it kept me going and going. But when 2020 was like a very low year for me, COVID happened, but it's just like, what am I doing? Why my job was the job I was in, I was not really satisfied with it as well. So I was like, what am I doing with really my life? And I tell the students that try finding something else for you. It doesn't matter whatever it is, like try finding some activity which you can do, which can break you off from the struggles you're going through, from like the education part of it or from like the financial part of it. Once you do that, you'll be able to distract your mind and like get it cleared up to face that problem. And therapy is definitely helpful.
Yeah.
There is negative notions about it, but I feel like if you can talk to somebody and not a friend, friends are not therapists. Friends are always biased, no matter what. Even like not knowing you guys that much, I'll be biased against you, right? A therapist duty is to be unbiased and give unbiased opinions if they are giving any. So if you're feeling that way very strongly, uh, spending some money for a therapist is a very good investment. Consider it an investment, not like that you're draining money down. So in 2020, I felt really low and I had to like come out of it. The reason was, I don't know what the reason exactly was. There was multiple. Job would be one, and not being able to make YouTube videos, and then COVID happened, and then there's like stress at home. But then after that, I realized like these problems will keep on going. You just have to come through it and like talk it out if you have to.
Yeah.
I always feel like getting off social media helps a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we spend a lot of time now in
comparing.
the digital world, right? And
And it's not just posting that takes up your time.
Yeah.
Because you want to see what happens after you've posted. You want to check your analytics. You want to see the likes.
No, not just that. Even in curriculum academics, you spend a lot of time on Teams or Microsoft Outlook and those kind of platforms.
So much screen time.
And you don't really have to find a new hobby. Oftentimes, people actually stop doing their passions or part-time interests that they have back home after coming to abroad, and once they start their master's program, they often quit that and stop pursuing it because they are kind of embarrassed in a way to have that as a side hustle, because here you're asked to only focus on that particular full-time job and nothing else, right? Which is a little sad, right? It's important, even if it's as simple as going to play cricket on the weekends or attending like events or activities on your campus outside of your classwork, right? Because usually
sometimes festivals celebrated with the Indian community, like that makes you feel so much better immediately.
All those things help a lot, right?
Yeah, definitely. Any kind of physical activity will always help. If you're there's no reason why you can't go for like a 20 minutes walk. There's always 100 reasons for why not to do something. But if you go out, like 20 minutes walk will give you so much endorphins and so much like just just happy. It'll just make you happy, and it'll make you feel lighter. um when I was in West Lafayette and it was like super cold and snowy, I used to still go out for a walk every day, like just put on my jacket, put on gloves, and just go walk, because it always helped me clear my mind off and just get out there, see the nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, explore the city, right? Often people complete their degree and they just move to another place for their full-time job and miss out on exploring their town where they spend maybe 2 to 3 years of their life, right? So that is also very important. But Parth, I want to ask, I don't know if you want to, I'm going to edit this part out maybe, but do you want to talk about how you're doing social media content and being an international student? Because a lot of people are scared of doing all these because getting flagged or being scrutinized by the government or something like that, right? On those terms, you can just give a little 101.
Only if you're comfortable sharing.
I'm comfortable sharing. So as long as you're not making money out of social media, you can do social media content. And anytime I have done any kind of partnerships with like companies where I travel to India and I do it there. So whenever I'm like doing any sort of part for my events, for the big events, I have to get a sponsor. And usually when I get a sponsor, they like I'm not getting the money, but they rent out the space. They help funding that part of stuff.
Right.
So of course there's a few ways, right? With the American system, the biggest thing is, as long as you know that you're not making money, you should be fine. Your taxes, there's a lot of ways to see, and there's a lot of ways which can show whether somebody's making a money or not. But I've always tracked it where my monetization's off on Instagram, my monetization is off on YouTube. And if I'm doing any kind of partnerships or any kind of paid deals, it's always happening when I'm traveling to India.
Yeah, like, yeah,
So
absolutely.
keeping it separate, because I've talked to like multiple lawyers about it, and it's always their recommendations like, hey, if you're trying to launch something, go launch it in India and then
Right.
come back. And as long as you're doing it there, you're completely fine.
Thank you. Thank you for your honesty, first of all.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
money is on your mind, then that's a different conversation, like you said. But apart from that, if you truly believe in a passion and you want to, continue that, passion here in a foreign soil, then you can absolutely do it.
Just remember to turn off the monetization.
Yeah, we're doing
Yeah.
a here, and you're
Yeah.
doing. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing, what happens is that people before growing even, they start thinking about monetization, and they get like disheartened that, oh, I'm in the US, I'm not going to be able to do it. So what is the point of doing it all? But it's been 6 years now with no monetization on my YouTube. And I always just feel like, hey, if I wouldn't have been able to do this, I wouldn't be able to do the events in India or make
Right.
all those connections I made. As
Yeah.
if I want to go to a certain company, I can get a referral. Like those things happened because I was able to do that. So
Right.
you can get like disheartened that and bring in all the negative thoughts that I can't do this because of my visa and like crib about it, or you can just do it and not monetize it and like you get benefits in different ways. I get benefits. Switching companies would be very easy for me right now.
Right.
If any of my sister, when she was coming to ASU, I had like a lot of connections who could help her.
Right.
And it's not as complicated
Yeah.
to think about, and especially if you're making money through your regular job already, there's no reason for you to be so greedy and like risk your visa.
Yeah.
And then this becomes another full-time job, right? When you
Yeah.
want to start earning money over here as well, and then that comfort and happiness that you have of doing this passion or side hustle
Just
goes
for
away.
fun, yeah.
Goes away, right? So yeah, what has been your favorite moment so far? We do see the YouTube play button in the back, but
Yeah.
what do you think about it when you got it? Did you try to cherish?
Was that like your moment of success? Like I've made it moment? Like was
or
that it?
or
Yeah.
what is in your
Uh,
yeah, next up? Yeah.
I did not feel any differently than I was feeling. Like I got it and I was excited. It took forever to come actually. They
Yeah.
forgot to send me, so I had to reach out to them like, hey, I never got my play button, and they send me a code for it. But that did not give me as much happiness as like meeting students give me. Like that
Right.
that was exciting. I actually like showed it on my Instagram, and you would see that I have I'm so flat in my excitement. So those kind of milestones don't make me happy as much as like, okay, the progress and the journey makes me happy.
Yeah.
um, what makes me happiest is, when my parents were visiting in 2019, they met some students who recognized me. That was fun. I go to India, I do these events. That is fun. Like that's the fun part of being famous or doing social media. That's just like another, milestone. It's good to have. It's just not
It's
something I'm very like
yeah.
amazed about.
It's funny because when I reached out to you, I was super excited that you said yes to it. And everything else that happened afterwards, I didn't really have the same excitement because it's already happening, right? Now, whatever is going to happen is for the world to enjoy it and cherish it, right? My excitement was, reaching out to you and you saying yes, and then we set it up. So that's usually the process of this. Like you said, the journey is so much more important sometimes, and even the destination, but it's important to enjoy during that path to it,
Yeah.
right? We have 3 minutes left on this call, so I think I'm gonna send you another link and then we'll wrap up
Okay.
our conversation there. Or maybe we can do
Sounds good.
let me do one last question and then we can
Okay.
wrap up.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Parth does a lot of meetups,
Yes.
whether it's in the United States or in India, and he recently did that when he went to visit India, right? So
Yes.
how's that been as an experience for you? Not just the feedback or the compliments that you might get for doing that, but those people that you're able to connect and hopefully make careers for them through those small informal meetups that you make. Any special experiences or moments that comes to your mind that you truly enjoyed?
Yeah, for sure. It's just the rush of it all because, we do like 4 cities in 2 weekends. moving around in India, doing like that much events, and all the events had over what? Pune had over 400 people, almost 500 people.
Wow.
Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, all these cities had over 300 people. So just meeting so many people is insane. And plus, like, I get so exhausted by the end of like the fourth meetup that I just want to like shut my door and just like, calm down. But um, I've gotten into habit of doing it. So it's easier as compared to initial. So now, like, I've practiced it so much where I can just go and talk to an audience of 300 easily and like not have, sweats running down my back or getting chills or anything. But it's just seeing all those folks and be like, hey, I was able to create all of this is very good. And then it also makes me a little bit sad because I see that the students there's a lot of information out there, but they're still not able to like grasp all of it. And that's what I'm trying to do, where create like of just free resources over free resources that, hey, you can use this, you can use this. So whenever I get time to do that, I create like a PDF. Here's a guide which you can use, because videos die down, searchability is a struggle for sure.
There are so many resources and support that is available online, but like you said, not a lot of people are aware of it, and education is a very important thing. And I think you're kind of a teacher or professor who's trying to educate everyone out there. Okay, so if you're enjoying the episode so far, please make sure to follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple Music and any other streaming platforms that you can find it on. But if you're on YouTube
and watching us right now, be sure to take a moment and subscribe, like, comment, and do share it with as many people as you can.
Welcome back. So you've been trying to create, in a way, an Indian community or an Indian network, or maybe a global network for students and for aspiring students, for current students, and for graduates, right? What's your personal opinion about the work that you've been doing in terms of the content creation and your passion as such?
I think I got really bored after so many years of creating content. I think it's just tedious work.
Let's talk honestly.
I'm being honest. Initially, it's all fun, right? Like, because you're learning new things. Once you know how to do it, once you know how to like do editing on Final Cut Pro, film videos, it gets repetitive and it's boring. It's like school. Teachers have to teach the same class every year again and again. Same thing happens. I get very repetitive questions. So I get bored. So to find like last year, I was so bored to find out or to like increase the benchmark on how what things I could do. I like started focusing on Instagram, and that like helped me keep going on. And I grew the Instagram to over 100K within like a period of 4 months or so, which was crazy to me. But all I did was just like upload videos, how everybody was doing. And maybe this year I was thinking LinkedIn, but I just don't have like that motivation. That motivation keeps coming in. It's a cyclical thing. It'll come back, but it is definitely tiring. And when people say, oh, content creation is difficult, it's not the creation itself is difficult, but it's just like the consistency of it. And, just keep going is difficult. Like for you guys with having a baby and, still like creating podcasts and creating some sort of content on Instagram. It might be exciting because you're growing right now, but after a while, it's just like even the growth doesn't really
excite you.
It's just it doesn't excite. It doesn't excite that much.
6 months into it, we've already reached that stage.
We're feeling it. Especially like you said, it becomes repetitive, right? And then the creation part is so much fun. What's really exhausting is the editing afterwards. The entire behind the scenes process, which no one sees because they see the end product. They see like a 1-minute video or, a 15-minute YouTube video, for example. But editing that probably took 8 hours.
I think, and if you'll take a break, that's it. Don't take a break. When you guys starting right now, don't take a break. If you take a break right now, it's so difficult to come back.
Yeah. I think you're talking about, for example, every fall, you have to create that, fall 22, 23, 24 video on YouTube, which says you have to do this checklist. The content really is the same, but the thumbnail changes. Maybe, it gets more creative and the quality of video changes, but it kind of gets repetitive what you're talking about, right? What
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not challenging enough, right? Like, it's how's this challenging? So it's not even like, tingling my brain where I'm not feeling that, I want to do this.
Do you have any ideas, or do you see some patterns out there that you're following in terms of like international education? Do you see something changing? I know in terms of visa, it's getting maybe a little more easy, maybe in terms of, let's say, US, Canada, their bonds, and, it's making them easy, the work permits and all of those stuff. But anything that you see that's interesting to you, or
do you foresee something happening maybe?
Yeah, what I see happening is, so when the tech started growing up, everything goes exponential, right? So, for example, before, let's say Google took these many months to get 1 million users. Now Threads came and it took so quickly for them to get the million users. Same thing with raising money. If you have a startup or something, people are able to raise so much money suddenly, like on a very short scale. And you're seeing 3-year-old startups valued at $1 billion, which was very unheard of, let's say 10 years ago. What I fear is like everything goes in a curve, right? Like in a bell curve. So what I fear is, where is the peak for international students? What will be the time where it's too many international students, where there's no part-time jobs? That it's way far off, especially for the US, because US has a lot of universities, but in Canada it's already happening, and in certain areas there's no you guys probably know it better, there's no part-time jobs, because you can work off campus as well, because everything's taken already. There's certain universities where the visa regulations is so easy, like students are coming and there's no gatekeeping in terms of, there's no bar which is set, right? Like initially, okay, MIT, Harvard, the bars are set very high and there's only quality and cream students coming in. Now with the US also, there are certain universities I see where they're just admitting everyone. And when the professors are also raising concern, for example, ASU is a very good example of it. I have talked to the students there, and the professors are also like tired, because it's a 200-person class and it's all Indian students. And if it's all Indian students, like, where is the diversity if you're going to admit everyone and there's no gatekeeping, there's no bar which is said that you would need XYZ qualifications for it. And they realize it's a big money-making thing with international students, so they're just doing whatever they can.
More of a business now than education, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Parth, what do you think about doing something very drastically different? For example, on your social media, now you're doing a lot of, training international students and all of those kind of content. Would you suddenly put a full stop on it and pursue a completely different passion? Because a lot, they're following you because for a certain reason, right?
Yeah.
Would it be fair for you to completely switch? But otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to start from scratch again to get those 100K, establishment on those platforms, right? What do you think about the idea of that in general also?
Have you ever thought about it?
Yeah, like just quitting some passion and then starting something new. What do you think about it?
Oh, I think about it all the time. Because it's like, I want to get in a position where, like, that's why, when I support communities like Gradical, it's because so that those like Gradical can take over and I can step out. It's because I don't want to be doing this forever. And there's like a limit, right? Like, I'm 29-year-old. Usually students who come in are like 22, 23-year-olds. And you guys, I don't know how old you guys are, but your thinking has probably changed over the years. That's how my thinking has changed. And student thinking is completely different. How I used to think about things at 22 was way different than what I think right now. So even preaching what I think right now might not relate to the students that much. So I have to be careful there. But my idea is like, leave this and, start like a business where I would not need to be so much on social media and try to like maybe like an apparel business or something. I think that'll be very cool. Like, I'm always, me and my wife share one common hobby. We loved stationery growing up. So I would love to like get into some kind of notebooks or, pens or some kind of stationery brand. That'll be very cool. Like a B2C business, but
that sounds cool. We hope that happens.
I would.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm obsessed with like nice notebooks and pens, and it was just like since childhood. I think my parents spend more money on that than anything else. So I'm very interested in doing something like that. See, like with the technology coming in, we're using products like Notion and OneNote so much that we'll do. Like when I write something now, it feels weird sometimes because I've typed so much that I have not written something in a while, and it just feels like, oh, why am I feeling weird holding my pen? And that sometimes when I'm so just exhausted of looking at screens, I would just open up a notebook and like start writing things which I'm like content idea wise. It's way more work and it's harder to keep track. But I like that. At least it gives me 1 hour where I'm just focusing on one thing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it's a nice reminder to like go back to, paper and pen once in a while.
At this point, it's not going to be like that is a cheap thing. I think it's more of a premium thing where it becomes a fad, where people are like how people have started using digital cameras again.
Yeah.
Right. Like people are.
Yeah.
People are buying the film cameras, the disposable ones, and they're buying and so I've seen even students using flip phones. Some students. So I think it's more of a trend thing. But let's see.
I want to ask you, Parth. You were saying how 22-year-old Parth was thinking something completely differently than what a 29-year-old Parth thinks. So do you have anything you want to say to your younger self, maybe?
No, not really. I think whatever mistakes I made, I learned a lot from them. So there's nothing I can really tell. I just think the only thing which I can double down on is that don't worry about the outcomes and just keep doing what you're doing. Absolutely. That is very important. Like just if you keep putting out content, if you keep putting out, if you just like keep learning, it will pay off one time or the other. It's just that people lose their patience, and having patience is very important.
Absolutely. Well, Parth, on behalf of all the students out there who've been following you, your journey and everything that you have to share, the wisdom and knowledge that you've received, and now you're preaching back. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing. And thank you for putting all that energy and making a difference in, the lives out there. We have one last question to ask you, which is, what's your Sankalp?
I think the biggest goal or passion I want to chase or I'm chasing already is trying to own my own time, because I don't own that right now. My company owns that. If I'm able to own my own time, I'm able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. That's the goal for me, where, if I can just do whatever I want, travel to India whenever I want, or be in India, be in the US whenever I want. That freedom is something which I'm missing, and I'm just trying to achieve that as quickly as possible.
I think it resonates with what she highly believes in.
I truly believe that, everyone says that, of course, money plays a huge factor into this. But I think for me, being rich means not owning, luxurious things. Like that's not richness for me. For me, being rich means able to, like you said, wake up whenever I want, like, control my 24-hour day the way I want to spend my time.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's exactly it. Owning my time. And I'm not very tempted to, because when I was planning to buy a car initially, my brother-in-law was like, hey, you should get a Mustang or a Camaro. You don't have a family right now and you can spend. I'm like, I don't think I'm looking forward to driving a Camaro. Like I bought a Toyota because it's reliable and it'll last me a long time. That's always my thought, buying something which is reliable and not overspending on things, which will give me a very short burst satisfaction, but like in long term, I'll just regret buying that.
Yeah. Right. But Parth, thank you again for giving us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. What a lovely conversation.
We hope takes a lot from this conversation and your story and your journey so far, and we'll make sure it reaches the right audience. But thank you for letting us be part of your journey, and we wish you and your wife the best of luck, and we'll stay in connect with you.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time so much, Parth.
No, of course. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm glad we were able to do this. I know there was I just realized it's in an hour and I wouldn't be able to completely wake up. So I was like, all right, let's move it. Yeah.
That's also the beautiful part about this is the connection we were able to make with you, Maunika, Sankalp, Advait, and Parth. So this is the 100% connection to have, right? Thank you so much for your time again. Cool.